please stay and hear what a man says? Your brain is so flooded with dopamine you can't even entertain a long video. You come from this trash content that rewards you very fast, watching reels with saturated colors and hooky music. I implore you to let your brain harvest some pleasure from complex ideas. But here I go again, presuming dualism. Presuming that the brain and the mind are separate, but the mind is emergent of the brain, and the biochemistry that lets you get hooked on reels simply must be obstructed. I ask you to stop it using a different kind of biochemistry. Try to control your reward pathways. You can do it. We do it with fasting, we do it with training, we do it with a lot of things. The body simply doesn't want to go to the gym. It rather just stays in bed and watches porn. But you actually force your body to go out and train because you perceive that you have some type of pleasure in the long run, in the future. And speaking of the future, because this is our subject today, free will and time. Of course, if you have watched my previous videos, you would know that I'm a determinist, that I do not subscribe to the position that we have free will. But anyway, in the past video, I talked about the metaphysics of time, exploring various theories that define time, like growing block theory, presentism, eternalism, A theory, B theory of time, etc. Now, of course, since I am a determinist, I find myself forced to have the position of an eternalist as well in terms of explaining time. Eternalism, as we said previously, is the theory that says that the present and the past and the future all ontologically exist. To explain further, eternalism goes hand in hand with the theory of block time that says that the universe is a four-dimensional block that has all the past and the present and the future within it. And this of course has strong supporting evidence, like for example general relativity and special relativity, that there is no universal now and time is different from a perceiver to a perceiver. And since the universe is actually governed by fundamental universal laws, if the past is formed in some specific sittings that the universal laws have allowed, so we have the past and it's formed in specific sittings. Those specific sittings from the past could only allow one particular present because those sittings in the past are distinct and special. They could only allow one special present. Of course, when that past only allows one present, the present also has specific sittings and distinction into it. Therefore, the present itself becomes the past that has events that conform to the laws that are intertwined into the fabric of reality. And right after that, the present itself becomes the past. And the past, again, gives the present. So it's actually a simple hypothetical syllogism. We have A then B and B then C. If A then B and B then C, therefore A then C. So if A is actually constrained, it could only cause a constrained B. If B is also constrained, it could only cause a constrained C. So if A is constrained, C is also constrained. The principle of causation dictates that E causes C. And if E has some specific special regulations or sittings into it, it can only lead to a B which is constrained by specific regulations and sittings that would lead to a C, which is the future, that would become the present. Because the past is always there, and the present becomes the past, and the future becomes the present. So now that we know this, we know that the universe is governed by laws, basically. And those laws cannot be otherwise. Now, those laws cannot be broken, and they cannot be stopped. And we humans are part of the universe, and we submit to those laws. It only seems to me that the universe is taking a great chain of causality. And whatever we actually do was actually predetermined by the events of the past, because the events of the present are only an effect of the past, which is a cause. Therefore, the cause gives an effect, and the effect changes to be a cause that gives an effect to change to be a cause itself. The idea that we might be free is an arrogant one. If you ask a person about all the things in the universe, planets, black holes, stars, nebulae, etc., of course he would tell you those things are definitely not free because they are moved and governed by physical laws, except for himself. And if you ask him about himself, he would tell you that he is free. All of a sudden, he is not governed by those laws, even though being a part of the universe himself, just like a star or a moon. They lean to their religious perspective or to dualism or the existence of a soul or a spirit that never actually met a burden of proof, that has a lot of philosophical problems within them. So the point is, just like a star is governed by gravity, just like an atom is governed by electromagnetics, just like the whole universe is governed by entropy, humans are governed by biochemistry that dictates their actions, governed by genetics that dictates their psychological tendencies, governed by the events in their childhood that dictate the whole structure of their psyche. A lot of psychologists actually say, you want to understand a person? Check his childhood. So if this childhood is actually constrained, that I didn't choose what gender that I will have, that I didn't choose the type of school that I go to and the type of friends, the country, my religion, my parents, how could I choose anything in my adult life if A, which is your childhood, is constrained and A gives B, let's say your adolescent years or your teenage years, it must be also constrained because A is the fundamental basic of this chain of causality. If it's constrained, B is constrained and C is also constrained. If E then B, if B then C, if E is constrained, therefore C is constrained. It's a simple hypothetical syllogism. So what are you telling me? Are you telling me that the events of the future are already predetermined by causality? Is this what you're actually telling me? Yes, it is actually what I'm telling you. Because the events of the future cannot be otherwise. Because the present is like this and the past cannot be changed. Everything is submitting to causality, which submits to the laws of the universe. Things simply cannot be otherwise. So why do we actually just feel the present? We feel the present because we are conscious. As the analogy I've talked about in the previous video, it's just like a spotlight of time, okay? It's just like a movie you're watching which is like 2 hours long and you're basically in the middle of the movie. Of course, the rest of the movie is ontologically there, okay? But your spotlight is only confined in this particular time. Of course you would reach this place, you're just in here right now. But the movie is pre-recorded, but the universe is not. I literally can just shut this video and not post it. But whether I shut it, whether I stop recording or not, it's already predetermined by the state of my biochemical state. Now, did I choose my biochemical state? Of course not. You could say that I did by choosing to eat this thing and not eating this thing, or choosing to sleep early, or choosing to, for example, stay away from drugs and have a healthy lifestyle and such. But even those decisions require a further explanation. And we keep going back, regressing back, until we find out some reason or some action or an event that you simply did not choose. And if that event is actually the foundation or the basic of all the events that would follow from it, if it is constrained, all the events that would follow are still constrained. How could you get a free action from a constrained basis? It's impossible. You could invoke a soul or a spirit that actually chooses, that actually inhabits our very body. But this simply doesn't solve the problem. If a spirit, let's say a spirit, which is of course is not governed by the laws of the universe, biochemistry, genetics, DNA and all that. Let's say it's just that. This spirit must be eternal, okay? If it's eternal, Therefore, it chooses some type of action. If it chooses, we need just to say, why did it choose A over B? If it chooses A over B, it must have a reason. If it didn't have a reason, that's random. If that choice is random, it only implies that there's no free will. But if it chooses A over B for a particular reason, I could only ask, did you choose that reason? If you did not choose that reason, you're not free. You're only following orders. Following a reason because you are forced to follow a reason, just because I'm forced to eat a banana over an apple because I have a preference of taste. I have a memory with a banana tasting better than an apple, or I have a bad memory with an apple that made me choose a banana over an apple necessarily. I call this the argument from independent reason. If the reason is independent and it's out there, you're not free because you're only following orders. You choose X because of some reasons that are dictated by things that are outside your control. That's pretty much it. So the future is already there, is already set. So what are we doing? We are nothing but consciousness, conscious of events that include our very actions, our very daily actions. We have illusion that we are actually doing those things, but it's not us because there is no us which is independent of the grand wheel of causality. There is only a consciousness, there is only a force that is conscious of events unfolding before its very eyes. Now, did I record this video? Yeah, of course you could say that I did to simplify communication. But I would say that I did not. It's the chain of causality that put me here now, made me do that, necessarily. As I say always, it's not your fault. Blame the universe. But this analytic philosophy would actually contradict my existential philosophy. At the end of the day, existentialism emphasizes the idea that we must be responsible and free to take care of our own existence. But in an analytic philosophy, it says that however we feel that we are free, we're not in charge. I say just go on and live as you lived so far. Live as though there is free will. Live as though morality is objective. Live as though there is a meaning to life. If it suits you and makes you slightly more comfortable. But anyway, that was all for today, and don't forget to like and subscribe, folks, and see you in the next one.